Hello, welcome to week 9. So, we've gotten through quite a bit. Last week, we've all been able to take a look at how you took data, you tried to figure out how to give it some structure by maybe creating or leveraging taxonomies. Then we talked about navigation, what kind of words helped you find and or contextualize the information. So don't forget understanding context. There's some good learnings in that as well about how these particular mechanics work. And now to finish it off is probably where many of you started. You all had difficulty, I believe, figuring out how do you emphasize one thing over another, and how do you avoid having some very simplistic ways of navigating content. So this week we're going to talk a little bit about everyone's favorite ratings. So we're going to talk here, and this is now we're in the world of metadata, which is kind of a big world. And the reason why we kept it till week 9 is that all of the things that you've explored, basic data sets, understanding like your core data, if we're calling it that, has to come first. You have to have done everything that you've done, all the taxonomies, before you could get to metadata, because you'll have to display and react. Now, a couple of the exercises here are, what difference does it make? So one little thing, if you open up this this PDF, is a really interesting example of what we think a rating means is not necessarily what it means. So I would just say, we're doing a little bit of a thought experiment this week. How you would capture ratings and trust ratings is much different than having them in the first place. And not to bury the lead, we're also going to explore a service out there that has done exactly what you did. They took user-generated data, so that's a kind of an interesting thing. User-generated means that I'm giving you the data, not something, for example, like a movie database, where the data probably comes from a particular source that's probably a little more reliable. So you don't make up a movie. It has to come from a more trusted source, whereas I can make up data, such as Twitter. Twitter's a great example, actually. And in fact, it's in here somewhere. So these are all services that are pretty popular, that all rely on organizing in a meaningful way user-generated data. So your final paper is an exploration of the same thing you just did, which is trying to make it useful. How did they do it? And they did a great job. So hopefully it's really just pointing out things that maybe you had difficulty with that they did well. And that's the subject. So I'd like you guys to pick a service that you want to explore, and then we're going to talk a little bit about, ratings. And when you get into the real world of metadata, like let's just say there's a ton of it, there's data visualization, which is a really popular way to show off data that in a weird way is kind of meaningless unless you can put it into a context. So there's static ones here, some examples, and then there's interactive ones here. So this is just to whet your appetite as to another way to display information. And then finally, so I want you to say, what is it exactly? Take a look at the service and try to focus, because some of these services have grown so large. Instagram, for example, probably has 7 or 8 different other services. What I'm trying to talk about is where did they begin? So there's some research that you can do within the Internet Archive and also online in blogs to just see, where did these services start out? Because they all started out fairly simple, and that's where all I want you to focus on. So that's week 9. Once again, hopefully everybody got their feedback from their work so far, and let's keep the momentum going as we round out and finish off the course. Thank you.